Welcome back to New Rockstars. I'm Erik Voss, and the Marvel Cinematic Universe is under attack. Well, not from roided-out space tyrants or Mysterio's fake news network, but from Hollywood legends mad at their grandkids for watching Endgame 3 times instead of Shutter Island or The Godfather Part 3. Yes, Martin Scorsese, the director behind Goodfellas, Taxi Driver, Raging Bull, and The Wolf of Wall Street, called the Marvel films, quote, not cinema. And Francis Ford Coppola, maker of the Godfather films, Apocalypse Now, and lots of wine, backed him up, saying Martin was being kind by calling it not cinema, and that he'd call it a tub of shit. And just kidding, despicable was his word. Beneath this seemingly petty squabble between beloved, wealthy filmmakers is actually a fascinating truth about how exactly the stories of Avengers Endgame, Spider-Man, and Nick Fury keeping that one eye open in every damn movie have transformed what kind of stories we now expect on the big screen, and how this all foreshadows what kind of weird deepfakes we'll be seeing on the big screen in the next decade. Join me as I explain the real reason Scorsese and Coppola hate the MCU in this episode of Inside Marvel. Okay, in early October, while promoting his upcoming Jimmy Hoffa film, The Irishman, Scorsese said this about Marvel films: I don't see them. I tried, but that's not cinema. Honestly, the closest I can think of them, as well made as they are, with actors doing the best they can under the circumstances, is theme parks. It's not cinema of human beings trying to convey emotional, psychological experiences to another human being. Shortly after this, Guardians of the Galaxy director James Gunn tweeted that Scorsese is judging films he has not seen the same way people protested Scorsese's movie, The Last Temptation of Christ. Not long after, Robert Downey Jr. told Howard Stern,
I mean, look, it'd be like saying Howard Stern isn't radio. Wait, there's a lot to be said for how these genre movies, and I was happy to be part of the problem if there is one,
right,
denigrated the art form of cinema. And by the way, when you come in like a stomping beast and you eliminate the competition in such a demonstrative way, it's phenomenal.
Whatever he means by that. And then Sam Jackson was asked about Scorsese's remarks on the red carpet.
Last time I trusted someone, I lost an eye.
I love it. He actually said this.
I mean, that's like saying, Bugs Bunny ain't funny. Films are films. Everybody doesn't like his stuff either, I mean, we happen to, but everybody doesn't. There are a lot of Italian Americans that don't think he should be making films about them like that. So, I mean, everybody's got an opinion, So, I mean, it's okay. I ain't gonna stop nobody from making movies.
So the more recent update came from Francis Ford Coppola, who just said Martin was being kind when he said it wasn't cinema. He didn't say it was despicable, which is what I say. Oh damn, somebody's cutting a promo.
You, man.
This time, James Gunn went to Instagram to respond, meaning it's personal. It's a 2019 equivalent of going to the mattresses. It's for you, Coppola. Hope you're enjoying the wine. He pointed out how the older generation hated Coppola's gangster movies as despicable replacements for the westerns of John Ford and Sergio Leone. And finally, during all this, Scorsese clarified his original comment, but also kind of doubling down, saying, right now, the theaters seem to be mainly supporting the theme park, amusement park, comic book films. They're taking over the theaters, and I think they can have those films. It's fine. It's just that shouldn't become what our young people believe is cinema. It just shouldn't. He described how young people don't know enough about the all too important history of Jimmy Hoffa. As well known as he was, time just wiped him away. This is a world we live in. Our children I don't know what they're doing with those devices. They perceive reality differently. Also, get off my lawn. Also, old man screams at cloud. Okay, I think you could tell by my completely impartial intonation that I obviously side with the James Gunn camp on this. I mean, who couldn't side with that? I love the work of Scorsese and Coppola, and I kind of see their points, but why do you gotta say these things, old men? All it does is it turns the fans against each other, which is stupid, because the gangster movies of Scorsese and Coppola are just as fetishized as the Marvel movies are. For every Marvel fanboy, there's a sanitation engineer in Jersey who quotes Don Corleone as he dumps a body in a trash compactor. For every overaged Spider-Man cosplayer, there's a guy named Spider who thinks Bill the Butcher is the hero we need and deserve. And Gunn is totally right that at one point, filmmakers like Scorsese and Coppola were the newcomers ruining everything people knew about Hollywood and replacing it with their new storytelling form that some people considered despicable. Like in the 1960s, Hollywood movies were way smaller in scale. They were often westerns or musicals or Hitchcock slow burn stories that were weirdly tan-colored. But in the 1970s, Scorsese, Coppola, along with Spielberg and George Lucas, they changed everything. They were considered the new wave of young filmmakers who revolutionized Hollywood films into faster-paced, 2-hour-long capers with lots of big action and big violence violence, big special effects that cost a lot of money and made a lot of money. Like, these are the guys who made Hollywood the billion-dollar business that it is today, setting the stage for Marvel to take over. But knowing this history explains why these men are freaking out so much. The massive success of Kevin Feige with the MCU has made them feel threatened for their way of life and their storytelling style. Because notice that Downey empathized with them by describing Marvel Studios as, quote, a stomping beast eliminating the competition. In order to get financing for his small period biopic, The Irishman, Scorsese was likely in a lot of conversations with various producers about how increasingly difficult it is to get a movie funded if it isn't adapted from some pre-existing well-known IP. Coppola is going through the same thing, apparently struggling to develop his own big-budget passion project for several years, apparently about a utopia named Megalopolis. I'm sure it's gonna be a slam dunk. The Marvel Cinematic Universe began as an exception to the established Hollywood studio trend. Never make one movie expecting it's gonna be part of a 23 movie series, but because it's been so successful, it's now been adopted as the rule. Like, think about it, pretty much every movie franchise film now ends with a post-credit scene that's designed to set up some future installment that we also have to go see. Hobbs and Shaw had 4 post-credit scenes. Yeah, it's no longer about the movie you're watching, it's about the bigger thing of what's coming next. And as a lover of the simpler art of the cinema tradition, yeah, it probably sucks for someone like Scorsese to see all the stories he likes to tell now only have homes on smaller screens via things like HBO. And that's why Martin Scorsese's descriptions of the Marvel movies as theme parks makes a lot of sense, and why his statements about the youth perceiving reality differently kind of accurately describe where this is all heading. The big studios of Disney, Warner, Universal, they now want the experience of going to see a film screening at your AMC or your Regal Cinemas or your ArcLight, wherever you see it, to feel like a transportive process, an immersive escape, a different reality than normal everyday media consumption is. Because if you think about it, all the profit that Disney makes from the Marvel films and the Star Wars films, it really just accounts for a fraction that Disney makes from its theme parks and its merchandise. Disney considers Star Wars Galaxy's Edge a place where you pay and you go and you ride rides. They lump that in as a canonical narrative experience that has a place on the official Star Wars timeline of story events. The same's true for the upcoming Marvel attraction at Disney parks. And yeah, it all started with the Wizarding World of Harry Potter. You can now walk into these narrative timelines. So maybe Scorsese's right in saying the Marvel films aren't cinema because, yeah, nowadays they're a hell of a lot more than cinema. They're experiences that never end, that are designed to keep you in a state of perpetual excitement and anticipation. The fact that the movie-making business evolved doesn't lessen the creative achievements of Scorsese and Coppola. In fact, that evolution is because of those guys. And that evolution led to a genre with quite a bit of variation, by the way, because it's not just the MCU. Joker was a standalone comic book movie, no post-credit scene, probably not a sequel, but it still made a ton of money, and hey, it helped that Todd Phillips did it by taking inspiration from Taxi Driver and The King of Comedy, 2 films directed by Martin Scorsese. And yes, at the end of the day, all of these movies that I've mentioned in this breakdown are cinema. But hey, I want to know what you guys think. Do you think Scorsese and Coppola have a point, or should they just shut up and let their grandkids play with their Spider-Man toys? Comment down below with your thoughts. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Erik Voss, and subscribe to New Rockstars for more journeys deeper and deeper inside Marvel. Thank you for joining me, and let's collectively try to stay off of Coppola and Scorsese's lawns.